The Galactic Union believed they understood every species that lived under their bright banners. They cataloged cultures, charted civilizations, and listed strengths and weaknesses with cold precision. To them, humans were simple, emotional, chaotic, brave in a reckless way, always improvising, never predictable. They saw humanity as a species of passion rather than discipline. A young world that had grown quickly, but without the calm order that older civilizations valued. Because of this belief, they welcomed Earth into the Union, but placed them in roles that did not matter. Humans were allowed to trade, to explore, and to observe, but never to lead armies or shape strategy. The galaxy believed it had already understood humanity. They were wrong, but they did not know it yet. When the Vrathoon appeared from outside known space, everything began to change. They were a hive-minded force that consumed worlds without hesitation. They did not communicate, negotiate, or retreat. They moved like a storm of metal and flesh, overwhelming worlds one by one. The Union responded with its combined fleets, but each battle revealed something terrible. The Vrathoon learned fast, adapted quickly, and fought with brutal unity. The Union species, each with their own traditions and command styles, could not match them. Their lines broke again and again. Planets fell. Refugees flooded safe regions. Hope shrank. The Great Council of the Union met in a chamber filled with tension. Representatives from dozens of species argued across glowing tables. Their fleets were smaller each day, their supplies strained, and their morale fading. They were desperate, but none would admit it aloud. The room fell silent only when the Acryl Admiral spoke, her long silver limbs trembling. "We must request support from Earth," she said. Some representatives looked confused, others annoyed. Requesting support from humans meant bringing in a species that the Council considered impulsive and unrefined in military matters, but the Acryl Admiral continued. "We need personnel for evacuation and supply handling. Their adaptability may help in non-combat roles." There were no objections. After all, no one expected humans to change the war. They simply hoped the humans might ease the burden of logistics. A message was sent to Earth. It was polite, but distant, asking for assistance that required no real risk. The reply came quickly. "Earth will send a professional force equipped to support the Union." The representatives nodded without thinking about the precise wording. They imagined untrained helpers, volunteers ready to assist but not to fight. They imagined humans arriving in disorderly ships, wearing mismatched uniforms, carrying outdated machines. None of them imagined what would actually arrive. The first human task force entered Union space on the 21st standard cycle after the request. Alien officers from several species stood waiting on the landing platform of the orbital station Helios Prime, expecting a chaotic arrival. Instead, they watched as 3 enormous human transports approached in perfect alignment. Not a degree out of place. Not a second off schedule, is this correct? A feline Calther officer whispered, checking his pad. "Their ships are coordinated." His ears flicked in surprise. The ships docked with mechanical precision. As the hatches opened, the officers braced themselves for loud greetings or undisciplined movement. Instead, they saw lines of human soldiers march out in perfect formation. Their boots hit the metal floor at the exact same time. Their uniforms were crisp and standardized. Their weapons were secured, polished, and identical. Not one soldier looked around or chatted. They moved like a single unit with a single mind. The alien officers stared in silence. These were not volunteers. These were not helpers. These were not the chaotic humans they expected. This was a professional army. Captain Aaron Solis, the human commander, stepped forward. He was calm, his voice steady. "Humanity reporting to assist the Union. Our forces are prepared for deployment upon your instruction." Some alien officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. This was not the tone of an emotional species. This was the tone of a military that understood structure better than any of them expected. The first days were spent observing human training drills. Alien leaders watched from high observation decks. They saw human squads move through simulated battlefields with a level of coordination that alarmed even the strictest species. Humans communicated quickly and clearly, using short, sharp commands. They covered each other without being told. They used terrain instinctively, changed tactics instantly, adjusted formation mid-movement without confusion. An acreal strategist leaned toward a Selly observer and whispered, "This is not chaos. This is discipline. She paused. This is something we misjudged." Still, the Union did not fully trust humans in real combat. They assigned them to evacuate a colony on the rim, where the Verthun had already begun to advance. The mission was supposed to be simple: escort civilians onto transports, then withdraw. The alien commanders expected humans to panic once they saw the enemy. They expected mistakes, noise, fear. They did not expect efficiency, as the human detachment deployed to the planet's surface. They saw smoke rising from ruined settlements. Alien civilians ran in fear, chased by Vrothun drone swarms. Union troops were already falling back in disorganized waves. The human commander assessed the situation in seconds. Alpha Company, establish a shield perimeter. Bravo, push the drones back from the evacuation route. Charlie, secure the landing zone. Move. His voice held no fear, only clarity. The human army moved instantly. Their lines did not break. Their voices did not shake. Their actions were synchronized like parts of a machine. The Verthun drones advanced, expecting another easy victory, but were met with a wall of coordinated fire. Human marksmen targeted the drone joints. Machine gunners controlled choke points. Engineers positioned barricades faster than the aliens could process. The Thun swarm hesitated for the first time. Alien refugees saw humans move with calm under pressure. Human medics treated the wounded without losing focus. Human officers relayed information without shouting or confusion. Every motion had purpose. By the time Union reinforcements arrived, expecting chaos, they instead found the humans standing in formation. Civilians safely evacuated, the Vrothun pushed back. And the battlefield secured, one alien officer whispered words that spread across the sector. Like a spark, they fight like a single mind. The Union leadership was shocked when they reviewed the reports. They called an emergency meeting again, but this time there was no argument. They watched footage of the human army moving with precision. They studied the speed of their decisions, the unity of their actions, and the confidence of their discipline. The Council began to realize something they had never considered. Humanity did not fear war because they enjoyed fighting. They mastered war because they understood what undisciplined conflict could destroy. Their professional army was not born from aggression. It was born from the desire to protect. In the quiet after the meeting, an elder council member spoke softly. "We thought they were emotional and unpredictable, but this is a species that has learned to control its fire rather than let it burn uncontrolled." The tides were shifting. The galaxy had seen the first glimpse of humanity's true strength, but it was only the beginning. The Vrothun threat was still growing, and the Union forces were still struggling. But from that moment onward, no one could deny what they witnessed on the rim. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy was starting to understand what that meant. The human detachment became a subject of discussion across every major Union channel. Footage of their calm precision spread from system to system. Every species that saw it felt a mix of confusion, admiration, and unease. No one had expected humans to fight with such control. No one had expected them to look more unified than any automated drone force ever created. But even with the growing curiosity, the Union still believed the humans had simply been lucky. They believed the rim evacuation was a small mission, a situation where humans could shine because the challenge was limited. That illusion did not last long. Only for cycles after the rim incident, another call for help came. This time, it was not from a remote colony, but from a major trade world known as Nera 7. The Verthun had launched a sudden assault, breaking the orbital defenses and landing heavy drone clusters across the cities. The Union forces stationed on the surface were struggling to hold even a small part of the capital. Their lines kept collapsing under the pressure of the enemy's coordinated waves. The Union command requested immediate support from any available force. They did not expect the humans to volunteer. They assumed Earth would wait for a clearer order. But Captain Aaron Solis answered instantly. "We will deploy a full company to Nera 7. His tone was calm, almost casual. The alien officers exchanged nervous glances. "This world is much larger than the Rim colony. The Vrathun forces are heavier. This is not an evacuation. It is a war zone." "We understand," Solis replied simply. Within hours, human transports launched. Their movement was smooth and organized, every procedure completed with quiet confidence. Alien observers watched from the viewing decks as the ships vanished into jump space. Some felt relief, others worry. They still did not fully trust humans with such a dangerous task. They feared humanity would be broken by a real battlefield, but Nera 7 would soon change. Those thoughts forever. The moment the human ships entered the Nera 7 orbit, the chaos below was clearly visible. Flames rose across the cityscape. Towering structures burned. Civilians ran between broken streets, while Vrathun drones crawled over buildings like metallic insects. Union soldiers struggled to regroup, shouting orders, firing wildly. Moving without coordination, Captain Solis watched the scene in silence before issuing his first command. "Deploy in 3 waves. Alpha will secure the South District. Bravo will cut off the drone advance from the east. Charlie will set up a triage zone and reinforce the civilian routes. Maintain formation and execute the plan." There was no hesitation in his voice, no uncertainty. His soldiers responded instantly. "Understood." The human dropships descended through smoke and fire, landing with perfect placement. As the hatches opened, alien survivors stared at the soldiers marching out with disciplined steps. Their gear was clean, their faces focused, their movements precise. Union troops near the landing zone stared in disbelief. A wounded officer whispered, "They walk like they already know they will win." The human squads split across their designated paths. Alpha Company moved into the South District, where thick clouds of smoke covered the sky. The Vrathun drone clusters crawled through debris, firing their acidic projectiles at anything that moved. But the humans were not intimidated. Their formation did not break even when the first enemy volleys flew, shields up. "Push forward," Aaron Solis ordered. Human shield units advance first, their barrier generators glowing with controlled energy fields. Marksmen followed behind them, firing with calm precision. Every shot hit a weak point in the drone's exoskeletons. The Vrathun swarmed aggressively, but the humans adjusted instantly, shifting formation and angling fire. There was no panic, no confusion. Every soldier knew their role. On the eastern side, Bravo Company advanced through narrow streets. The drones tried to overwhelm them with rushing attacks. But the humans used controlled retreat tactics, drawing the enemy into tight spaces where their fire could be concentrated. Explosives placed with perfect timing sealed off the side alleys, cutting the swarm into smaller groups. Across the battlefield, the Vrathun's behavior changed. They hesitated, confused by the lack of weakness in the human formation. Their hive mind adapted to fear and pressure, but the humans gave them nothing to exploit. Charlie Company worked in the center district, securing civilians and setting up medical zones. Human medics worked faster than the alien ones had ever seen. They moved from patient to patient with practiced rhythm, stopping bleeding, stabilizing injuries, and coordinating evacuations with other squads. Civilians who had been moments from despair now found themselves pulled to safety by steady hands and calm voices. "Stay behind me," a human soldier told a trembling alien mother. "We will take you to the safe zone." His tone was gentle, but his movements remained sharp and focused. Word spread quickly across the city. The humans were here, and wherever they moved, order followed. Meanwhile, Union officers observing from the command building watched the battlefield screens with growing shock. They saw human soldiers clearing entire streets that Union forces had abandoned hours earlier. They saw drones fall in precise patterns under coordinated fire. They saw civilians rescued with a speed that seemed impossible. They operate like a single organism. One officer said softly, echoing the earlier words from the Rim mission. Another officer nodded slowly. "Their discipline is unnatural. It was trained. It was practiced. It was the result of years of development, harsh drills, and a culture that took military professionalism seriously as the battle on Nero 7 intensified. A massive Rthun brood carrier descended from the upper atmosphere. The sky darkened under its shadow. Union soldiers gasped in fear. The ship was enormous, capable of releasing thousands of drone units in minutes. Captain Solus stood calmly as he watched it through his visor display. "All units," he said, "prepare for heavy deployment. Maintain your positions. Do not break formation." The brood carrier opened its lower bays, releasing a roaring swarm of drones. They fell through the sky like a storm of metal blades. Many alien fighters would have panicked. Many species would have retreated. The humans didn't either. Shield wall. Solus commanded. A bright arc of overlapping energy shields formed instantly. The first wave of drones crashed against it, throwing sparks into the air. Human gunners opened fire from behind the barrier, hitting drone after drone. Bomb specialists placed charges under the heaviest clusters and detonated them with perfect timing. The drone wave slowed, then broke. Union soldiers watching from nearby rooftops stared with wide eyes. They had never seen a species hold against a brood release. Even their strongest units fell under such swarms. But humans stood as if facing a normal challenge. The brood carrier began charging its planetary beam. A beam that could level entire districts. Captain Solus did not wait. "All artillery units lock on target. Fire on my mark." He raised his hand. Mark. The human artillery fired simultaneously. Their coordination was perfect. Every projectile hit the carrier's weakened plates. The massive ship shuddered. A second volley followed, striking deeper. Sparks erupted across its hull. A third volley hit its core. The brood carrier exploded. The shockwave rippled across the city, scattering debris and leaving a long silence afterward. The drones collapsed without their central control. The Rthun assault ended in moments. Union soldiers stood frozen. Civilians stared at the human units with a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. Even the commanding officers watching from the screens could not speak at first. One of them finally whispered, "This is the day the galaxy sees their true strength." When the smoke cleared and the fires died down, the humans moved once again in steady formation. Securing remaining sectors and ensuring no hidden threats remained, their confidence never wavered. Their communication never faltered. As the last Vrathun drone fell silent, Captain Solis gave a quiet command. "Mission complete. Begin recovery." Union officers hurried outside to meet the human commander. They expected him to be proud or boastful, but he simply nodded at their gratitude. "We are here to help," he said. "This is what our army trains for." The aliens exchanged quiet glances. They knew now, without question, that Earth's forces were not simple volunteers or unpredictable fighters. They were a professional army in every sense of the word, and this was only the beginning. The news of Near 7 spread faster than light. Every channel, every broadcast, and every military network in the Union replayed the same scenes over and over again. Humans standing firm under a swarm attack. Humans coordinating volleys with perfect timing. Humans rescuing civilians with calm faces while the world around them burned. The galaxy had never seen a species fight like that. Many called it impossible. Others called it unbelievable. But no one could deny what they had witnessed. The Union Council met again, this time with a different atmosphere. Gone were the doubts and soft complaints. Gone were the casual remarks about human impulsiveness. Every representative watched the recordings in silence, trying to understand how an army from a young world could act with such unity. "Their discipline surpasses even our elite units," one advisor said, her voice trembling, "and they do it without fear," another added. The council finally agreed on one thing. Humans had to be given a larger role in the defense of the galaxy. But agreeing was one thing. Acting was another. They still held their pride, and pride slows decisions. While the council debated, Captain Aaron Solis and his soldiers prepared for their next deployment. They did not wait for permission or praise. The Vrothun hive was advancing deeper into Union territory, and every hour mattered. Human scouts had already gathered information on the next front line. The fortress world as Aaron-4, is known as the Unbreakable Planet. It's built with thick iron walls, shield towers, and generations of military tradition. It had never fallen to any invader. But traditions did not stop hive swarms. The Vrothun had already broken through 2 of the outer defense rings. Union commanders were struggling to form a stable line. Panic was spreading among the refugees. Even the fortress officers were losing confidence. That was when the human army arrived. The landing on Asaron-4 was different from Nera-7. This time the Union forces were waiting for them with respect, not doubt. The officers straightened themselves when the human transports landed. The soldiers saluted with sincerity. Civilians whispered excitedly, "Humans are here.
Nice.
They saved Nera-7. They will save us too." Captain Solus did not waste time with speeches. He observed the defense plans, analyzed the enemy routes, and reviewed the internal communication systems of the fortress. His face remained calm, but inside his mind, he was already shaping strategies. "The eastern gate is collapsing," a Union officer explained. "We cannot hold more than a few hours." "We'll hold it," Solus replied. The officer blinked. "But your numbers?" Solus shook his head. "Numbers matter less than coordination." The humans moved out. Their boots hit the metal floors in unison. Their armor reflected the blue lights of the fortress corridors. Soldiers from other species watched them pass, feeling a strength that radiated from their unity alone. At the eastern gate, the situation was exactly as desperate as the officer described. The Vrothun drones crawled over the broken outer walls. Acidic projectiles slammed into remaining barricades. Wounded soldiers lay scattered across the defensive trenches. Smoke choked the air, and the ground trembled under the marching weight of the hive. When the humans arrived, they did not freeze or hesitate. Solus lifted his hand and pointed. "Shield units, front. Marksmen, take high positions. Heavy gunners, stabilize the left flank. Engineers, reinforce the cracks in the wall." The human army moved like flowing water, filling gaps, stabilizing the collapsing line. Union troops watched with awe as formation after formation took shape. Where drones broke through, humans countered. Where drones swarmed, humans thinned them out. Their shots were clean. Their movements were sharp. Several alien officers stood behind the second line. Unable to look away, "They do not fear the swarm," one whispered. "Look at their formation," another added. "It adjusts every second." As the hours passed, the fight intensified. The Vrothun hive increased pressure, sending in larger drones and armored crawlers. The ground shook under their weight. Their screeches filled the air, echoing off the iron walls. But the humans stood their ground. At one point, a massive Vrothun grinder unit charged toward the left flank. It crushed debris under its metal limbs and fired molten blasts at the already damaged wall. Union soldiers dove for cover, but humans did not run. "Focus fire," Solus commanded. The grinder unit turned its glowing eyes toward the human formation. Then the first volley hit it. Then the second. Then the third. The creature stumbled, its armor cracking. Human gunners aimed for the same weak point, firing as one. Suddenly, the grinder unit fell, crashing to the earth with a heavy thud. A wave of shock spread through the Union soldiers. They cheered, shouting the same word again and again: humans. Even with the cheering, the battlefield remained dangerous. The swarm kept coming. The hive mind was relentless. But something had changed. The humans had stabilized the line. The eastern gate was no longer falling. Night fell on Asaron-4, but the battle did not stop. Humans rotated shifts without delay. Medics treated the wounded with quick hands. Engineers strengthened barriers, working through smoke and darkness. Marksmen scanned the battlefield. Watching for enemy movement, the Union officers gathered around Captain Solis. "For the first proper briefing, we have never held this long." Against such pressure, a reptilian commander, Admitted, Solus studied the enemy patterns on the screen. The Vrothun adapt fast, but they are predictable. They rely on overwhelming numbers and core nerves. If we cut off their communication node in the western hive mound, the swarm here will weaken. The room went silent. That mound is deep behind their lines. One officer said, "It is almost impossible to reach," another added. Solus nodded. Almost, but not impossible. The next morning, humans prepared for a counterattack. Not a reckless charge, but a focused, coordinated strike aimed at the heart of the hive structure. Union soldiers watched as human squads ran quick diagnostics on their weapons, checked each other's gear, and reviewed the operation map with steady expressions. "They are not excited," alien medic whispered to her colleague. "No," he replied softly. "They are ready." The assault began with a quiet signal. Human units advanced through narrow trenches, moving under the cover of smoke. They took out drone sentries with silent shots. They avoided open areas. Their formation shifted with each new obstacle, adapting without breaking. As they approached the hive mound, the drones became thicker. Smaller units crawled along the walls. Larger armored drones guarded the entrances. But the humans continued. They used explosives to open a controlled breach and entered with steady steps. Inside the mound, the air was humid and heavy. Strange lights pulsed along the walls. The hive seemed alive, breathing with the heartbeat of the queen node far below. Solus raised his hand. "Stay sharp. We cut the core, the swarm falls." The deeper they went, the more resistance they faced. The drones fought with panic now, sensing the danger to their node. They rushed the humans in waves. But every human squad fought in unison. They covered their angles. They moved back to back. Their discipline turned the narrow tunnels into perfect kill zones. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The queen node pulsed with sickly light. Thick cables connected it to the rest of the mound. It radiated a strange energy that made even the bravest soldiers uneasy. But humans did not pause. "Set charges," Solus ordered. His soldiers moved quickly, placing explosives at precise points. The ground trembled as drones tried to break through the tunnel behind them. But the humans held the entrance until the last charge was placed. They withdrew with perfect timing. Solus lifted the detonator. A Soren 4, he pressed the button. A thunderous explosion shook the entire hive. The queen node collapsed. The cables snapped. A wave of silence washed through the tunnels as the hive mind lost control. Outside, the Vrothun drones froze mid-motion. Many collapsed instantly. The remaining ones scattered without coordination. The Eastern Gate defenders watched in disbelief. They did it. A soldier shouted. The entire fortress erupted in cheers when the humans returned. Tired but steady, the Union soldiers greeted them with respect deeper than any medal or speech. They had not only won a battle, they had restored hope. It was the day Sarnfor realized that the human professional army was not just strong. They were a force that could change the fate of worlds, and the galaxy was beginning to understand that. Humanity was only getting started. The next morning in the human command vessel, the atmosphere was still tense after the silent warning they had received from the enemy. The crew felt the pressure of what was coming, but they also felt a new strength inside themselves. The human army had trained for years for situations like this. They were not afraid of powerful enemies or large fleets. Their confidence came from discipline, unity, and the knowledge that every soldier beside them would never break. General Amina moved through the main command room with calm steps. No one needed to be told to stay sharp. Every officer, every soldier, every technician already knew. They had seen the enemy reposition. They had watched thousands of enemy ships gather in the darker regions of the starfield. They understood that the aliens were preparing for a full strike. Marcus stood near a large display, watching the enemy fleet shift into formation. His eyes followed the glowing marks that represented different factions of the Council Armada. He had fought in many operations on Earth and on other planets, but this was different. This enemy was not just strong, they were old, experienced, and used to crushing any civilization that tried to rise. But Marcus also knew something they did not. Humanity had changed since its early days in the galaxy. They had become a professional army unlike anything the galaxy had ever imagined. They did not fight with emotion or fear. They fought with precision. A young communications officer turned toward Amina. "General, enemy frequencies are increasing. They are sending signals across every council ship. We think they are coordinating a synchronized strike." Amina nodded slowly. "Let them prepare." "So do we." She gave a short order that echoed through every corridor of the human command ship. "Initiate Phase 1" was a simple command. But every soldier across the entire fleet understood exactly what to do. Training activated like muscle memory. Ships moved into a perfect defensive arc. Ground forces prepared for deployment. Drone swarms ignited and spread through space like stars waking up, unlike other armies in the galaxy, which relied heavily on fear or individual ship captains. The human professional army functioned like a single living mind. No one panicked. No one hesitated. Every action was part of a larger plan, far outside the human position. The Council fleet suddenly lit up with thousands of blue and red flashes. Their ships surged forward like a massive wave, their engines roaring at full power. The space between the two forces filled with violent energy, but the humans did not fire first. Amina watched quietly. Marcus watched beside her. The power of the enemy fleet was enormous, but the humans had expected this. They had studied every move the Council might use. "Hold positions," Amina said. Her officers did not question her. Then, when the enemy was close enough, she gave the command, "Release the nets." The human fleet unleashed hundreds of electromagnetic nets that expanded across the empty space. They were invisible at first, then they lit up as enemy ships crashed into them. The nets ripped apart shields, destroyed control systems, and sent entire rows of ships spinning. The enemy bombardment stopped for a brief moment as they realized their approach had been trapped. Marcus stepped forward. "General, the enemy's second wave is moving around the nets. They are sending in heavy cruisers." "Prepare counterwave," Amina said softly. Across the fleet, thousands of drones detached from their carriers. Each drone was small but fast, each one equipped with a precision rail core. They moved like a swarm of metallic birds, spreading in perfect patterns. When the enemy's heavy cruisers opened fire, the drones responded instantly. The rails shot forward with silent force, piercing the enemy hulls in straight lines. The cruisers exploded one by one. Inside the Council fleet, panic began to grow. Their command ships had never seen anything like this. They were used to fighting chaotic species races that fought with anger, fear, or confusion. But this human army fought like a cold, perfect engine. "Increase defensive rotation," Marcus ordered. The human ships shifted again, forming a new pattern, one that made it almost impossible for the enemy to find a weak point. A Council commander, aboard one of the alien flagships, stared at the battlefield in disbelief. "These humans. Their movements are too precise. They are reacting before we even complete our orders." Another alien officer checked the data. "They are reading our formation changes in real time. Every adjustment we make, they counter it immediately." The commander looked out at his burning ships. "This is not normal warfare. This is something else." Back on the human flagship, Marcus watched the enemy formation crumble. But he knew the real fight had not started yet. "General," he said, "their elite fleet has not entered the battle." "They're waiting," Amina nodded. "They want us to commit to a full attack. They want to trap us too." Marcus looked at her. "Will we?" "No," she said calmly. "Because our next move will break their confidence. And once that happens, even their elite forces will hesitate." She turned toward her officers. "Prepare Operation Mirror Swarm." No one in the room said a word, but their eyes widened slightly. Mirror Swarm was one of the most advanced strategies of the human professional army. It used thousands of mirrored drone units that projected false fleet images, creating illusions of entire human groups moving in different directions. The drones activated and spread across the battlefield. Immediately, the enemy scanners began to fill with conflicting signals. One moment, the humans had 50 ships. The next moment, They had 500, then 200, then 1,000. The enemy could no longer understand what was real. Their elite commanders shouted desperate orders, trying to correct their sensors. Our scans are useless. We can't identify their true positions. Fire at all targets. But firing at everything meant firing at illusions. Their shots hit nothing. Meanwhile, the real human fleet moved silently behind the illusions and locked on 2 key enemy command vessels. Amina gave the next command. Her voice cold and steady. Hit their command line. In seconds, the human fleet destroyed the enemy's central coordination ships. Without those vessels, the entire council formation stumbled. Orders stopped. Confusion spread. Marcus watched the enemy panic and felt a heavy silence settle inside him. This was war at its highest level, precise, controlled, and ruthless. But before the humans could finish the battle, a massive shockwave shook space. A new group of ships appeared, their arrival powerful enough to distort gravity. The Council elite fleet had arrived. These ships were larger, darker, and more dangerous than anything the humans had faced yet. Their weapons glowed with ancient power that no recent species truly understood. Marcus stepped closer to the display. This is it. Their real army? Mina watched the enemy elite ships in silence. Then she spoke, her voice steady and clear. All units, prepare for Phase 2. The real battle begins now. Across the fleet, every human soldier tightened their grip, straightened their posture, and focused. They were ready. The galaxy was about to see what a professional human army could really do. The arrival of the Council elite fleet spread a wave of pressure across the battlefield. Even from a distance, their ships looked different from the rest. Their hulls absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Their engines burned with a cold white flame that felt older than the stars themselves. The human officers inside the flagship felt the shift in energy, but no one stepped back. No one questioned their readiness. They had trained for the hardest battles. They had faced impossible odds before, and they were not about to break now. General Amina stood at the center of the command room, her eyes fixed on the display as the enemy elite fleet formed into a massive spear-shaped formation. It was a formation meant to break entire civilizations with a single charge. Marcus stood beside her, reading the data pouring in from the drones. Their main weapon is charging, Marcus said. It looks like a stellar lance. If it hits our center line, it could destroy half our fleet. Mina nodded slowly. They will strike with their strongest weapon first. That means they expect us to panic. But we will not. She raised her voice so the whole command room could hear her. Prepare the shield wave. Every technician, every officer, every soldier moved at once. Human ships began to rotate into a layered defense formation. Each ship connected its shield grid to the next one. One ship alone could not survive the elite fleet's main weapon, but hundreds together could create a single massive barrier. The enemy elite commander watched the humans with cold eyes. He expected them to scatter or retreat, but instead the humans moved in perfect unity. Strange, he muttered. These humans stand as though they understand our weapon. The second officer replied. They are preparing some type of unified shield. The commander laughed. A unified shield against a stellar lance. Impossible. Fire at full power. The elite fleet's main weapon ignited. A long beam of white, star-like energy shot across space, tearing through darkness. It hit the human front lines with unimaginable force. The combined shield shook. Human ships strained. Metal bent. Systems flickered. Sparks erupted from panels. But the shield held. For a moment, everyone on the human flagship held their breath. Then Marcus exhaled slowly. It worked. Amina nodded. Good, now they lose their advantage. She raised her hand. All ships advance. Human vessels surged forward like a rising tide. The enemy elite commander's eyes widened as he saw the humans moving straight toward them. They blocked it. They blocked our strongest weapon. He shouted. His officers began to panic. What are your orders? But the commander hesitated. For the first time in centuries, doubt entered his heart. The humans did not hesitate. They activated the mirror swarm again. Thousands of drone illusions appeared around the elite fleet. Real drones moved silently in the shadows of the illusions. The enemy scanners were overwhelmed. Their formation fell apart. Amina's voice echoed across the fleet. Target their power cores. Hit them with precision. No wasted fire. Human battleships fired focus beams that pierced through the elite ships with incredible accuracy. Every shot hit a weak point. Every explosion was controlled. The professional army did not fire more than needed. They did not fight with emotion. They fought like masters. Marcus watched one enemy ship after another fall. Their elite fleet is breaking. They can't maintain formation.
Oh.
But before the humans could push further, the enemy deployed their last weapon, massive gravity traps that bent space itself. The traps created swirling tunnels that could crush human ships like paper. Marcus felt the ship tremble. General, gravity distortion increasing. Our ships are being pulled in. Amina remained calm. Activate Phase 3. Phase 3 was risky. It involved using mini-singularity engines to counter enemy gravity traps. If used incorrectly, it could tear the ships apart. But the human army trusted their training. The singularity engines flared. Small, controlled distortions spread around every human vessel. The enemy's gravity traps began to fail. Their swirling tunnels collapsed. Marcus stared at the readings in awe. It's working. We're stabilizing. Mina gave the next command. Break their trap ships. Human cruisers fired synchronized shots. The trap ships exploded one by one, their gravity cores collapsing. The battlefield changed again. The enemy elite commander looked at the destruction of his strongest weapons. The humans had countered everything, every trap, every formation, every ancient tactical pattern. He whispered, "How? How can a young species do this?" His second officer, voice shaking, said, "They are not young, Commander. They are trained. They are united. They fight like a single organism." The humans pressed forward. Their ships formed a spearhead. Amina raised her hand. "Prepare for final strike. Marcus, lead the forward formation." Marcus nodded and moved to the tactical console. "Forward units, follow my lead. Tight formation. All fire on my mark." The human fleet surged forward faster than any alien ship expected. They broke through the center of the elite fleet like a blade cutting through metal. "Fire," Marcus commanded. Hundreds of beams shot out at the same moment. The enemy's largest battleships exploded in perfect sequence. The elite commander's flagship shook violently as fires consumed its hull. He stared at the display, which now showed only scattered survivors. We are defeated," he whispered. His second officer looked at him with wide eyes. "The humans. What are they?" The commander answered in a shaking voice. "They are a professional army. An army the galaxy was not prepared for." On the human flagship, Amina gave the final order. "Send message to all council ships. Surrender, and you will live. Resist, and you will fall." Most enemy ships surrendered within minutes. The survivors knew they had no chance against the humans, as silence settled. The battlefield was filled with drifting debris and the faint glow of distant stars. Marcus turned to Amina. "General, it's over." Amina looked at the screen for a long moment. "No, this battle is over. But today, the galaxy learned something important." Marcus waited silently. Amina spoke softly, almost like she was speaking to the entire universe. "They learned what happens when humanity stands as one. They learned what a human professional army truly is, and they will never forget it." Marcus nodded. "They won't." Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread faster than light. Every species that once underestimated humans now spoke their name with awe. And so, the day ended with victory. Not because humans were the strongest species, not because they had,